that data stream from the sensors is interpreted by our software through AI ML capabilities, both based on imagery and aircraft behavior, to create that true view of the sky.
You're listening to the Drone Radio Show podcast, the show about drones and the people who use them for business, fun, and research. Hosted by Randy Goers.
Hello, everyone. This is Randy Goers, and welcome to the Drone Radio Show podcast, episode 430. How does artificial intelligence and machine learning enhance drone mitigation systems? For that question, we head to Park City, Utah, to speak with Mary Lou Smulders, Chief Marketing Officer at Dedrone. Dedrone is a world leader in smart airspace security. Hundreds of commercial, government, and military customers around the world rely on Dedrone's comprehensive command and control solution to protect against the persistent and escalating threat from drones while enabling good drones to fly. By leveraging artificial intelligence and machine learning, Dedrone is the only solution that provides continuous, autonomous drone interrogation and verification that enables both multi-sensor and multi-mitigation options into a single pane of glass. Dedrone customers can easily detect, track, identify, analyze, and mitigate drone threats. During her 20-year high-tech career, Mary Lou has served as Chief Marketing Officer at several enterprise software entities, including financial technology company Ninth Gear and crisis communication systems leader AtHoc. Additionally, she served as Senior Vice President of Global Applications and Services Marketing for Oracle Corporation and started her career as a rig engineer. In this episode of the Drone Radio Show, Mary Lou talks about Dedrone and the role of AI and machine learning in creating an effective drone mitigation system. But before we hear from Mary Lou, I want to stress that your support is the heartbeat of my podcast. Every episode is crafted with you in mind, and your generous donations ensure I can keep delivering the content you love. Whether it's the price of a coffee or a more substantial contribution, every bit helps to defray the cost of production. Donate today and be a vital part of the podcast's continued journey to greatness. And for a limited time, donate $100 or more and receive an official Drone Radio Show coffee mug. To donate, go to droneradioshow.com/donate. And if you can, please subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform and leave a nice review and rating on iTunes. It really helps improve the podcast ranking among the many thousands of active podcasts today. And by the way, if you have a great story about the use of drones that you'd like to share in a podcast, contact me at randy@droneradioshow.com. So let's find out how AI and machine learning is used to create an effective drone mitigation system with Mary Lou Smulders of Dedrone. Let's pick up the interview where I asked Mary Lou to introduce herself.
My name is Mary Lou Smulders. I am the Chief Marketing Officer and Head of Government Affairs for Dedrone.
Mary Lou, tell us about Dedrone. What does the company do?
In layman's terms, Dedrone's mission is to protect public and property from the threat of drones while enabling the good drones to fly. In a phrase, we are an airspace security company.
What is it about Dedrone's technology that makes it stand out compared to other companies in the space?
Ooh, that's a big question. So Dedrone's been around for a while. We've been around for almost 10 years, and we are very, very good at finding tiny things in the sky and being able to identify them. So when you think about the threat of drones, which, as we've all seen in both the public safety and national security side, is a persistent and even escalating threat. There, we're able to detect drones far enough away to be able to put up a protective posture against those, whether it be chasing after the pilot, which we can also offer the location of, or addressing the drone threat itself. On the enabling the good drones to fly side of it, we think of different good or productive drone missions. And we want to make sure that those drones are flying safely and not in jeopardy of running into something else like a crewed aircraft. And again, relying on that ability to find tiny things in the sky, we can make sure that there is a well clear zone for those productive drones. The key sort of secret sauce, if you want to call it, is because we have been focused on this single mission of airspace security for such a long time. We bring together the latest hardware, from processing compute to sensors, and the latest software capabilities in the form of AI ML driven solutions to really deliver the most accurate and true view of the skies.
In regard to drone incursions, can you give us an overview of the nature of the threat?
So on the sort of malicious or bad drone side, I still put it into two big buckets. One is public safety, and the other is national security. On the public safety side, this is really protecting the citizens from the threat of drones, whether it be a stadium full of people. Imagine drone flying over and just dropping white baby powder, talcum powder, on the audience. The panic that it would ensue would surely cause injuries to the public. We've seen that kind of chaos and that kind of issues at various concerts and different public events. We all saw last year in one of the NFL semifinals where there was stoppage of play for over 5 minutes because there was a drone flying overhead. And when you think about that public safety aspect and large gatherings, you can then take that stadium example to an airport. Surely we don't want a drone flying near an airport. Think of what a bird strike can do. And now it's not just, very soft flesh and bones. It's actually metal that would collide with an airport. Critical infrastructure is another one that we do in terms of public safety. And one that people don't think about every day is prisons. Drones, you can't build a fence high enough to stop a drone, right? So that's dropping weapons, drugs, and cell phones, general contraband, into prisons. Forget the knife and the cake, it's now a drone. Those are just some examples on the public safety side. On the national security side, I think that's become crystal clear for everyone when we reflect on the Russia-Ukraine war and how drones are being used on both sides for surveillance and weapon delivery. So those are really the two big use cases when you think about protecting against malicious drones. On the other hand, I know you've written a couple of articles that I actually got a chance to review and enjoyed around pro-drone usage, how drones can be used for incredible good, right? They're a tool. In the bad hands, they can be dangerous, but in positive hands, they can be incredibly useful. We all know the cool pictures that have been taken by drones. And when you think about productive drone missions, I think of them on continuum of incredibly predictable to very much not predictable, right? At one end, you could think of drones are being used for critical infrastructure inspection, crumbling bridges, pipelines. That's very predictable drone usage. You can decide when you're going to do your mission. It will always be likely in daylight hours. You will stay within 50 feet of the thing that you are inspecting, making it less likely that you're going to run into something. In the middle, we think about all the new ideas about using drones for delivery, right? We would all love for our purchased package to be dropped on our doorstep within 30 minutes. That, again, can be fairly well scheduled. It can be during daylight hours. You know your takeoff point, you know your landing point. You can design a route that has the least chance of running into something. At the opposite extreme is what's being used today by police officers and first responders. They call it drone as first responder. A drone can get on site faster than a human, assess the scene, and then give feedback to ensure that first responders, well, first of all, the right number and right type of first responders come to the scene, and what other resources might be required, not to mention keeping our human first responders out of harm's way. That mission could happen day or night. You probably know the takeoff location. You could predict the end location, but their drones are now being used to potentially chase a fleeing suspect. So you don't even know that. That is truly the most unpredictable of routes. And so that's where we've chosen to focus our efforts at Dedrone, to enable drones to fly as first responders beyond visual line of sight while maintaining a well-clear zone to ensure that they don't run into crewed aircraft or other uncrewed aircraft as our airspace becomes more and more complex.
A lot of public safety agencies already have established drone programs. Are they going to be able to keep these systems?
Yeah, Randy, I actually love that question because we are what we call platform agnostic. That's a fancy way of saying you can bring any drone to the table and we can make it work, which is great for first responders because they have already started, many agencies across the US and around the world have started to use drones for shorter missions like search and rescue, but within visual line of sight, or crime scene assessment, again, within visual line of sight. So they can bring their current drone fleet to the table and we can work with any type of drone. What we deliver is, again, thinking of the top of the hour, the ability to have a true and accurate view of the airspace through our software, hardware, or hardware is the sensors, software, hardware infrastructure that already exists to create a clear path for that drone to fly beyond visual line of sight.
So in a nutshell, this elevates an agency's situational awareness.
Yes. Said another way, they can fly beyond visual line of sight without concern of running into something in a complex airspace, running into another drone or running into a helicopter or a small airplane, a crewed aircraft, essentially.
And the system uses machine learning and artificial intelligence.
Yeah, that is certainly a portion of it. So we have a complex sensor array that enables you to see, so it's a different kinds of sensors, day or night, foggy weather, not foggy weather. That data stream from the sensors is interpreted by our software through AI ML capabilities, both based on imagery and aircraft behavior to create that true view of the sky.
How does the AI identify the various drone types and then know if the drone is doing what it's supposed to be doing or if it's something of a concern?
What you're essentially asking is, I see a drone in the sky. How do I know if that's friend or foe? The friends at different levels are easy. All the drones in my fleet, whatever I am, a law enforcement agency or a stadium security team, I can pre-program those into the software ahead of time so that when Dedrone software sees that drone, it automatically knows, oh, that's one you told me about. That's a friend. Got it. The foes at some extremes, let's just stick to the public safety. Let's not go to the, war conflict type, because that's a very different answer. The foes are by themselves very hard to determine. What you can say is, this one is not a friend. I know it's not one of the ones that I've pre-programmed. And then you investigate further. Is it offering us remote ID? If it is, that's a sign that it might be a friend. But most importantly, because remote IDs can be spoofed, we all know that, is it flying somewhere where it should not be flying? Over a prison, should not be flying. Near an airport, should not be flying. Over a stadium during a temporary flight restriction, right? For big games or big concerts and gatherings, there's something called a TFR, a temporary flight restriction, that essentially says you can't fly near the stadium for 1 hour before the event starts, through the event, until 1 hour after the event ends. In which case you have cause to go and talk to that pilot. So that's really the way you think about it. It's not illegal to fly a drone. Generally speaking, the FAA is very careful to fulfill its mission that it keeps our North American airspace, our national airspace, the NAS, safe and efficient. But it doesn't say you can't fly a drone. You just can't fly a drone in certain places. Today, with the laws that exist in place, unless you are Tier 1 event, that's like the Super Bowl or the presidential inauguration, all one can do is go speak to the pilot, which our software does give pilot location. And if you think about it, that is the root source of the issue. They're the one flying the drone.
What does it take to develop a successful monitoring system based on AI and machine learning?
In fact, we just published a blog about a month ago speaking to the fastest and most accurate AI-driven drone detection system. So AI ML, to be successful, really consists of 3 pieces. One is the data that you keep asking the software to review, and it's annotated. This is a drone, this is a bird, this is a leaf, this is a helicopter, this is an airplane, right? And that's imagery-based data. We've been around for almost 10 years, like I said at the top of the hour, and we have an enormous annotated database of tens of millions of images. In addition to that, we have recently added simulated data to cover edge cases, which has been a force multiplier in that imagery data. We're also looking at behavior data. In other words, how does a drone typically fly versus how does a helicopter typically fly, or a fixed wing drone or an airplane? So there's both imagery and behavior-based data. The second piece is the hardware itself, the processing speed and capability. And we purchased top-of-the-line hardware that we run 24/7 for some of the fastest processing in the world. And the third piece is the computer vision programming that you use. It's well recognized and documented that PyTorch is state of the art. It's what being used by companies like Meta. And again, starting last year with an earnest focus on improving our AI ML capabilities, we are now leveraging that PyTorch capability. So those 3 pieces, data, hardware, and computer vision software, have brought us to the point where we see that AI ML capability within our software as state of the art for the industry.
From a user's perspective, what can they expect when using the system?
let's take a malicious drone or an unknown drone entering your airspace. From a user perspective, you have a map-based UI that can come up in your center of operations or even on your phone. At the top center of the screen, you get an alert that can be distributed as, again, a pop-up on your screen or a text alert from an app. And what you then see is the key information that you need. This is the location of the drone, the flight path of the drone, the location of the pilot. You can get altitude, lat long for the drone, and type of drone. And that's really all you have or need. It's pretty intuitive.
What role do local public safety organizations play in addressing drone incursions?
From a public safety agency perspective, their primary mission is to protect the public, and they embrace that mission wholeheartedly. Drones are emerging threat that I would say the vast majority of agencies are now very aware of. The capability to detect the drone and locate the offending pilot is certainly accepted and within that mission statement for them. The issue is twofold. One, they need the tools to be able to address that and maintain public safety. And two, they need the authorities. And this is what we touched upon in the beginning of our podcast, where we spoke about legislation around what they can and can't do. And that's probably where a significant amount of frustration comes from when you speak to public agencies about protecting the public from drone threats.
What's happening on the legislative front to support local government intervention?
Oh, there's a lot going on. So they have the ability to detect the drone, detect the pilot, go speak to the pilot. That's where that authority ends. So what you sometimes run into is frustration around a situation where you see a drone. Let's go back to the scenario of the drone carrying something and flying over a stadium with tens of thousands of people in it. Speaking to the pilot may be ineffective if that pilot is truly malintended. And what you then need to do is affect the drone, which they generally don't have the authority to do today. There are several alliances and actually ongoing active bills in Congress right now to help expand those mitigation authorities. So there's actually a significant effort to affect those laws.
Change at the federal level usually is driven by a major crisis or catastrophe. Are we going to have to wait until there's a major drone event before government acts?
I don't think so. Or perhaps you could take the recent history of several drone incidents to add up to that. Let's look back again. I mentioned the AFC championship game that was delayed. And then most recently, the assassination attempt on President Trump's life involved a drone. When you take those smaller incidents and bring them together, it has certainly raised the awareness of the potential danger of drones in the wrong hands and how we might be able to strengthen authorities to a common sense solution. Again, you don't want to go too far one way or the other. And I do see that happening in earnest today in Congress. I'm actually very optimistic that something on the legislative side will happen in the near future.
I think we've covered this, but what's the overall benefit to agencies to invest in drone mitigation systems?
The benefit, when you think about it, their mission is public safety or airplane safety, airport safety. And it's not something that you would use every day, but in extreme circumstances, you want to have the tools to be able to address those.
What's next for Dedrone? What can we expect to see over the coming months?
On the counter drone side, the protecting against potentially dangerous drone side, we are actively working with both public safety scenarios as well as national security. Like any technology, there are innovations that happen on a regular basis. On the national security side, you're seeing those happening at the speed of war in the Ukraine-Russian conflict. And we are on the front line living with those innovations and delivering solutions real time to address those. On the public safety side, we are able to take what we call dual use technology capabilities. In other words, those innovations that are born in national security type framework and deliver those to the public safety side of the fence for effective use there as well. It includes things like on the move capability. When you are doing counter drone, you can think of it as protecting a fixed site, or you can think of it as protecting moving vehicle. That's a solution that we recently came up with.
And for my final question, Mary Lou, what message would you like to leave regarding the future of the drone industry?
When I think of the future of the drone industry, I would say the future is very bright. It is another incredible tool for humanity to use. We talked about critical infrastructure inspection, deliveries, all the way to drone as first responder. I've seen innovative drone usage where a drone can come in and turn itself into a defibrillator to be used by a non-medical person. There is incredible opportunity around the drone world. And what we simply have to be cognizant of, like every tool in the wrong hands, it can be used for malicious purposes. And if we can ensure a safe, but inevitably complex airspace, there's a lot of good that can come from drones.
That's it for episode 430 of the Drone Radio Show. I hope you enjoyed hearing from Mary Lou Smulders of Dedrone. I want to thank Mary Lou for taking the time to speak with me. If you want to learn more about Dedrone or want to connect with Mary Lou, check out the webpage at dedrone.com. If you like the Drone Radio Show, then please subscribe and share. Write a glowing review on iTunes, and if you're able, donate to keep the podcast going. Go to droneradioshow.com/donate. And thanks for listening. Your support means a lot to me, and I hope you'll listen to more episodes of the Drone Radio Show podcast to hear how others are using drones for business, fun, and research. For the Drone Radio Show, I'm Randy Goers.
This has been the Drone Radio Show podcast. More information on today's show can be found on our website at www.droneradioshow.com. If you're using drone technology for business, fun, or research and would like to share your experience on the show, please visit our website and fill out a guest appearance application. And don't forget to follow us on your favorite social media channels.